Welcome to the Springfield South County Youth Club's concussion education for players and parents. The purpose of this training program is to educate players and parents about concussions and provide guidelines on how to handle suspected concussions or diagnosed concussions in players. What will this training video provide? With this training video, you will learn why you need concussion education and training, what programs and information that SYC has in place for concussion awareness and education, the responsibilities of players, parents, and coaches when it comes to handling concussions and suspected concussions, understanding what a concussion is, the actions to take if you suspect a concussion, the signs and symptoms of a concussion, and the steps to follow to ease a player back into playing safely. Why do you as a player or parent need this training? Concussions are the leading cause of injury among youth athletes today. It's an injury that can't be seen and is considered a silent epidemic. This training is one of the tools that will promote greater awareness of concussions in sports and the need to keep a lookout for any possible head injuries. In addition, it will educate you in understanding the importance of preventing concussions and better prepare you to handle concussions and suspected concussions. Our goal is to keep our youth athletes safe and injury-free to the best of our ability. Virginia state law requires youth clubs, such as SYC, to keep staff, coaches, parents, and players educated about concussions. Virginia state law now includes Virginia Student Protection Act, Code of Virginia 22.1-271.5. Pursuant to Senate Bill 172, the 2014 General Assembly amended the Code of Virginia to include 22.1-271.5, directing the Board of Education to develop and distribute to school divisions by July 1, 2014, guidelines for policies dealing with concussions in student athletes, and requiring all non-interscholastic youth sports programs, such as Springfield South County Youth Club, to develop policies and procedures regarding the identification and handling of suspected concussions in student athletes. What does SYC have in place to comply with this new state law? SYC now has a dedicated webpage, the Concussion Education Center, at www.sycva.com that can be found under the Members menu of the website. In the Concussion Education Center section of the website, you will also find SYC's policies and procedures based on Virginia's new law that is currently in effect. SYC also has age-appropriate training videos and documentation for players, parents, coaches, and other SYC staff members to include a training video for children ages 5 to 8, a training video for children ages 9 to 12, a training video for children ages 13 to 18, which is also suitable for parent training, a training video for SYC staff members, and a concussion facts sheet written in both English and Spanish. Players' responsibilities. Players, parents, and coaches all have some responsibility when it comes to concussions in sports. Players should know the signs and symptoms of concussions, understand the importance of recognizing those signs and symptoms, and always report it to a coach or parent. Players also need to be aware of teammates on and off the field. They should pay attention to their teammates, especially if they notice behavior that is out of the ordinary. Friends don't let friends play with a concussion. Players should always tell a coach or parent of a hit to the head. Parents' responsibilities. Parents should recognize the signs and symptoms of a concussion and recognize changes in behavior. When they are unsure, they should follow the when in doubt, sit it out policy and have their child sit out. Parents should see a healthcare specialist if their child is showing signs or symptoms of a concussion. They should also tell the coach if their child is showing signs or symptoms of a concussion or if their child has been diagnosed with a concussion. In addition, they should report diagnosed concussions to SYC concussion support staff at concussion.support@sycva.com. Communication between parents and coaches and parents and healthcare providers are crucial to ensure the safety of their child. Parents should continue to provide feedback to SYC staff members and healthcare providers. Parents should be aware of and support SYC's return to play policies for their child. What is a concussion? A concussion is a brain injury that is characterized by an onset of impairment of cognitive and/or physical functioning. and is caused by a blow to the head, face, or neck, or a blow to the body that causes a sudden jarring of the head. For example, a helmet to the head or being knocked to the ground. A concussion is a software problem, a product of chemical changes in the brain. It is not a hardware problem. It is not caused by structural changes in the brain. What are some of the signs and symptoms of a concussion? Physical symptoms can include headache, nausea and vomiting, dizziness, balance problems, or visual problems. Emotional symptoms can include irritability, sadness, anger, being more emotional, or nervousness. Cognitive symptoms can include confusion, feeling foggy, feeling slowed down, or difficulty concentrating. Symptoms can also include sleep-related issues that include drowsiness, sleeping too much, sleeping too little, or having trouble falling asleep. Did you know that in the U.S., athletes suffer from roughly 300,000 concussions every year? At least 25% of concussion sufferers fail to get assessed by medical personnel. Concussions do not always involve a loss of consciousness. Concussion results in a wide range of symptoms and can last a few minutes, days, weeks, months, or even longer in some cases. There is no single test to diagnose a concussion. Routine diagnostic imaging, such as a CT scan, MRI, or X-ray, will most likely be normal. What do you do if you suspect a concussion? The player should be immediately removed from physical activity and should not return for a minimum of 24 hours. In addition, the player should do minimal homework and reading and should limit their use of computers. The player should avoid texting, television, video games, and stressful environments. Parents and players can refer to an SYC staff member during games or practices when a player is suspected of having sustained a concussion. Players should see a healthcare specialist or seek emergency medical care as appropriate. Staff and parents should contact SYC concussion support staff at concussion.support@sycva.com to inform SYC of diagnosed concussions. The player will need a rest from physical and cognitive activities. The player should be sure to get a good night's sleep to rest the brain and body. The player should be monitored for positive changes in signs, symptoms, and behavior before returning to play. Always follow the motto, "When in doubt, sit it out." If a player has been diagnosed with a concussion, the player cannot return to play until a healthcare specialist has approved. When is it an emergency? When a person exhibits any combination of the following: headaches that worsen, repeated vomiting, seizures, neck pain, drowsiness, significant irritability, unusual behavior changes, slurred speech, weakness, numbness in arms or legs. You need to seek emergency care immediately. Participation policy. No SYC player shall participate in any SYC athletic event or practice if he or she exhibits signs, symptoms, or behaviors attributable to a concussion, has been diagnosed with a concussion. After a concussion, there is a period in which the brain is particularly vulnerable to further injury. If an athlete sustains another concussion during this period, the risk of permanent brain injury increases significantly, and the consequences of a seemingly mild second concussion can be very severe and even result in death. This is known as second impact syndrome. SYC's return to play policy. No SYC athlete diagnosed with a concussion shall return to participate in an SYC athletic event or training on the days after he or she experiences a concussion, unless all of the following conditions have been met. The athlete no longer exhibits signs, symptoms, or behaviors consistent with a concussion, at rest, or with exertion. The athlete is asymptomatic during or following periods of supervised exercise that is gradually intensifying. The athlete receives a written medical release from a licensed healthcare specialist. General Guide for Return to Play. Number 1. No activity. Parents should seek the advice of a healthcare specialist. The player requires complete physical and cognitive rest until he or she receives medical clearance. Number 2. Light aerobic exercise. If the player has been symptom-free for 24 hours and has been cleared by a medical specialist, parents should have the player begin light aerobic exercise, such as walking, swimming, or stationary cycling. Number 3. Sport-specific exercise. If the player continues to be symptom-free for 24 hours and has been cleared by a healthcare specialist to return to play, the coach may have the player perform simple, sport-specific, non-impact drills during practices. Number 4. Non-contact training drills. If, after the next 24 hours, the player continues to be symptom-free, the coach may have the player perform more complex training drills that require more coordination and focus. In addition, the coach may also add resistance training. Number 5. Full contact practice. By this stage, the player has continued to be symptom-free and has gradually increased athletic participation. The coach may now include the player in normal training and game activities. If, during any stage, the player showed signs and symptoms consistent with a concussion, the player must return to the prior stage of activity. In summary, concussion education and training is now required by Virginia state law and is intended to promote greater awareness of concussions in sports and the need to keep a lookout for any possible head injuries in order to protect our children. A concussion is a blow to the head, face, neck, or body that results in a sudden jarring of the head and may or may not cause a loss of consciousness. Signs and symptoms may include a change in behavior, headaches, difficulties in concentrating, or a change in sleep patterns. If you suspect a concussion, immediately remove the player from activity. If symptoms worsen, seek emergency medical attention. Players cannot return to any SYC activity within 24 hours of a suspected concussion. Once a concussion is suspected or diagnosed, a healthcare specialist's written release is required before a player can be gradually returned to play. Remember the motto, when in doubt, sit it out. Thank you for watching the Springfield South County Youth Club's Concussion Education and Training video.